Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of 7th grade math with Mr. Williams. Today we're going to talk about integers with exponents. Okay? This goes along with benchmark number 6. So you should be working on benchmark number 6, and your objective for this video is, as a student, you should be able to accurately evaluate integers with exponents. We're going to talk about 3 specific types of integers with exponents, and we're going to go over all 3 of those in this video. You will need graphic organizer number 4, side 2. You can pause the video and get this graphic organizer now. Please be aware that there is categories that go straight up and down today. All right? We're going to start with integers with negatives. We're going to go ahead and get started. One thing that we always need to recognize in any time we're working with exponents and integers, okay? In this particular case, you guys see in all of these examples, we have a 6 and a 2, okay? The 6 is the base number. The 2 is the exponent. We always need to make sure we remember that the 6 is the base number, the 2 is the exponent. Now, that's important because when we talk about our bases and our exponents, sometimes our negatives are in different locations. So we're going to start with this first one. Our base is 6, our exponent is 2. One of the things you need to know about exponents is the exponent only takes the number that is directly next to it into exponential form. So this is just working with the 6. So we're squaring 6. Okay? Now, that means we're going to take 6 squared. And 6 squared is 6 times 6, which is 36. However, we have this negative sign, or minus. Well, that minus sign, or this negative sign, just becomes negative 36. And that's because your base does not have parentheses around it. Okay? And if you look down here, you'll see that this answer will always be negative. On the next slide, I'm going to show you a little bit more. So remember, negative 6 squared is negative 36. Here we go. So example number 1, we have negative 5 squared. So negative 5 squared is very simple. Okay? Remember what we said, that exponent only goes for the number right next to it, which is 5 squared. 5 squared is 25, and it's a negative sign, so it's going to be negative 25. Now, why does that work? Well, very simple. If you think about the following situation, 5 minus 2 squared. In this particular instance, if you were following the order of operations, you would do 2 squared first, correct? Which would be 5 minus 4. That's the same exact thing you just did down here, but the 5 isn't there. Okay? The 5 is no longer there. Now, that's really important because in the next type, it's going to get changed. All right, let's move on to example number 2. So once again, remember we have cubed. We have 3 cubed, negative or minus 3 cubed. What that means is 3 cubed is 27, and we're going to have a negative sign down at the bottom. Okay? So we should have negative 27, and that's our answer. We have one more example. This particular case, we have 2 to the 5th power. All right, 2 to the 5th power is the same thing as 32. Okay, so we're going to take 2 to the 5th power, which is 32, but our negative sign comes down. It's negative 32 or minus 32. Let's move on to type number 2. And type number 2, if we remember correctly, this one looks a little bit different because our base, you see our base has parentheses around it, which means the whole thing is going to the 2nd power. Okay? So now that exponent is squaring everything in those parentheses. So that's different because remember the first one, it was only taking the exponent to the base of 6. So this one was negative 36. Now we're working on this fresh new one. Okay? What this means is negative 6 times negative 6. And a positive times a positive, if you remember from our multiplying and dividing videos, a negative times a negative is a positive. So we should have positive 36, and that's our answer. And if you look down below, you'll see that says this answer can be positive or negative. And that really is determined upon what your exponent is. And we're going to show that in just a minute. Here's example number 1. Negative 5 cubed. Negative 5 cubed, but this one's in parentheses, which means this whole thing, this negative 5, the whole thing is being cubed, which would mean we have negative 5 times negative 5 times negative 5. Now, we're also going to have to use Pizza Steve here, And we're actually going to have to use it twice because we're doing it 3 times. We're doing 3 numbers. So here we go. Negative 5 times negative 5. A negative times a negative is a positive, and 5 times 5 is 25. So it's 25 times negative 5. Remember, crossed out our 2, we got a positive answer. This next one is 25 times negative 5. Well, 25 was positive, negative. Our answer is going to be a negative number. 25 times 5 is 125. So that is negative 125. Now, I told you these type can be positive or negative. And that really depends on this exponent. This exponent is odd. And notice, because it's odd, we have a negative answer. Okay? When it was even, we had a positive answer. Just something that might help you along the way. Example number 2. We have negative 3 squared. Okay? Negative 3 squared is the same thing as negative 3 times negative 3. And 3 times 3 is 9, and a negative times a negative is a positive. Our answer is positive 9 or just 9. We have one more example. We have negative 4 cubed. Negative 4 cubed, it's in parentheses, so we have negative 4 times negative 4 times negative 4. Negative times a negative is a positive, so that's positive 16 times negative 4. And a positive times a negative is always going to be a negative. 16 times negative 4 is negative 64. Your answer should be negative 64. Remember, it's negative, and we had a odd exponent. All right, we have one more type to deal with. Let's go ahead and fill in everything else that we had. Remember, this was negative 36. Because it is not in parentheses, you are only squaring the 6. In the second one, you are squaring everything in the parentheses because there's those brackets around it, which means it's one whole thing. So negative 6 times negative 6 was positive 36. And this one is the difficult one. And this is really 8th grade. We have 6 to the negative 2 power. Okay? 6 to the negative 2 power. And it says down here that this answer is a fraction. And anytime you have a negative exponent, you're actually taking the reciprocal. Now, you've heard the word reciprocal before. That's when you kept, changed, and flipped in a division problem when we were doing fractions. Well, that's the same thing, okay? 6 to the negative 2 is the same thing as 1 over 6 squared. It's the same exact thing, which actually means 1 over 36. And that's your actual answer, right? 1 over 36. Right? See that? It's a fraction. And that only happens when you have a negative exponent. Let's move on. Okay? Here is example number 1. We have 5 to the negative 2nd power. 5 to the negative 2nd power is the same thing as 1 over 5 squared. 1 over 5 squared is the same thing as 1 over 25. Remember, negative exponent means the reciprocal. Okay? Remember, you got to be careful. 5 to the 5 squared was 25, right? So if I reciprocated it with the negative sign saying that that is a reciprocal, instead of having 25 over 1, it would be flipped to 1 over 25, which is what we just did right there. And that's how we get the reciprocal. Okay. Example number 2. Remember, this is a negative exponent. You have to identify if the exponent is negative. If the exponent is negative, your answer is a fraction. So 12 to the negative 2 power. 12 to the negative 2 power is the same thing as 1 over 12 squared. And 12 squared is 12 times 12, which happens to be 144. So this is 1/144th, and that is your answer. Finally, we have example number 3. We have 3 to the negative 3. Okay, 3 to the negative 3 power, which is simple. It's going to be 1 over 3 cubed, which happens to be 1 over 27. Remember, negative exponent means it's going to do the reciprocal. Okay. Here is your independent practice. I want you to go ahead and pause the video and attempt all 6 of these. There is 2 of each type. Make sure you use your notes so you've got this locked down because you are going to be doing a full worksheet at the end of this. Good luck. All right, first one you should have had, negative 4 squared. That negative 4 is in parentheses, so it was the same thing as negative 4 times negative 4, which happens to be 16. Okay? Number 2, this one is a negative exponent, which means it is the same thing as the reciprocal, 1 over 8 squared, which is 1 over 64. That's your correct answer. Third one, negative 6 to the third. Now remember, there is no parentheses and there's no negative exponent. So this one means the negative sign is just going to drop straight down. And 6 cubed. 6 times 6 times 6, which happens to be 36 times 6, which is 216. So our answer for this one is negative 216. That one's a tricky one. Next one, 10 to the negative 2 power. Remember, negative 2, that means it's going to be the reciprocal, which is 1 over 10 squared, which is the same thing as 1 over 100. 10 times 10 is 100. All right, number 5, negative 2 to the 4th power. Negative 2 to the 4th. Remember that negative 2 is in parentheses. So that's the same thing as negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2. And we're going to have to use Pizza Steve kind of a lot here. Okay, so here we go. Negative 2 times negative 2 is a positive 4. 4 times negative 2. Okay, 4 times negative 2 times negative 2. 4 times negative 2 is going to be, a positive times a negative is a negative, that's negative 8 times negative 2. Negative times a negative is a positive, which means positive 16. Your answer should be 16. Congratulations. Last one, negative 11 squared. It is not in parentheses, and the exponent is not, I repeat, the exponent is not negative. So in this particular case, we just take 11 squared and drop down our negative sign. 11 squared is 121. Your answer should be negative 121. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the end of this video. You have an exit ticket with 6 problems. It is mandatory that you show these 6 to Mr. Williams. This is a skill that he's a little bit worried about because these are difficult. So please, I repeat, please show Mr. Williams these when you are done. Afterwards, you have a worksheet. You just need to check echo to make sure you know what number it is. Ladies and gentlemen, good luck.